got gators in it.
There are three ways to make a living in this business. Be first, be smarter, or cheat.
Oh, yeah? Well, me and the Lord, we got an understanding. We're on a mission from God.
They shouldn't have given you ashy blokes YouTube.
Cursed be the ground for our sake. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for us. For out of the ground we were taken, for the dust we are. And to the dust we shall return.
All right. You ashy blokes, okay? You ashy Jeffries, you dusty Jermaines, and you dirty foot Jose's, okay? Back in the house, okay? Punching the clock. I had about, man, I can't tell you, about like 6 or 7 people send me this particular video about the black two-parent household, or myth, so-called, even though that's not exactly what she said. Okay, it's not exactly what she said. It's more, as they like to use it in college speak, more nuanced. Okay, but she's not saying anything differently than has been said before. It's in the literature. But before we get to that, let's welcome some people. Since I had a nice 3-day weekend, yesterday, man, I had a horrible headache yesterday, man. I couldn't. I tried to do it. I said, man, I can't do this. I'm glad I didn't put up the thumbnail, because I'd have bonked out. Anyhow, but I'm feeling better today. So here we are. Martin Muhammad batting first. Oh, wait a minute. This is for Martin, right? Okay. With this particular topic, okay.
I knew you'd come back.
I trust you didn't lose sleep over it.
Worrying about you be like wondering if the sun gonna come up. Ain't about to wild out over it.
I knew Martin would be here for this one. Don Calypso, what's going on? This will be good. Maybe. See, the women really hate men they can't have but get turned on at the same time. It's complex, okay? Men and women feel the same way and think kind of the same way. They just come at it from different angles. Well, the thing is, men are willing to accept reality. Women have been taught not to. That's the difference. And there is instant media beaming in on 7. On third base, what's going on? Gundam playing cleanup. There's my Waffle House King. What's going on? How's the study going on, Lavaris? I think I'll text my nephew, see how he's doing, man. They say he's hanging in, which is all I can ask. Jesse, what's happening? Kevin, what's going on? Shannon Green, what's happening? GD, what's going on? Hype, just much love from the Netherlands. Just finished reading a great book, The Racial Hierarchy by Paul Grandinson. This book confirms a lot of your talking points over the past decade. Oh, probably so. Probably so. Appreciate you, Paul Grandinson. I'll look for it. Frantz Fanon said the same thing back in the, I think it was the 50s. Okay. Yeah, you saw it. Strength and blessings to all the brothers. The 2 black parent family is definitely a thing of the past. No, it's not. It still exists. Toya, it'd probably be even more so going forward. Corey, what's going on? Quentin, what's happening? Am I prepared for the so-called rapture today? Sure, if it happens, I'm prepared. One way or the other, I got my ticket or not. Okay, and Greg, what's happening? Barry Little, what's happening? Well, sure it is hell not a myth. When I was growing up, I grew up in one, family did, and the people I grew up with did. You can thank the new wave feminism, neoliberal social engineering. It's part of that. It's part mostly feminism. You gotta remember, feminism is an effect and not a cause. Okay, your cause is your industrial and economic structure that allows for this shit to happen. Because there's no rampant feminism going on in Latin America or the continent, right? Okay, and their rates of single motherhood are almost as high as ours. There's a reason for that shit. It's got very little to do with feminism. Okay, because everybody gets the same news all over the world at the same time. How come a more advanced society like South Korea has very little single parenthood, and some place like Latin America has the most? Doesn't make sense, does it? It's the environment. In fact, they have access to more feminism than some other places. Why? It's the environment causes that. Very little. What's happening? Dusty Jones. It's a shame my daughter's growing up an oddity instead of a norm. Well, the thing is, you can't determine when you're going to grow up, okay, or where you're going to grow up, okay. Your daughter's lucky. She could have grown up in. You could still be in Haiti, okay. She had to grow up in that shit. Maybe you not packed up. Shannon Moore, what's happening? Smoking that Anita Baker pack. Okay, all right, all right. Rapture. Anita Baker was a fly mamma jamma man when she was a teenager. I saw some pictures of her. Anita Baker was the shit when she was in her teens and early 20s. LAXT, what's going on? Chat at the gym, listening in. Okay, cool. Get it in, man. B. Quaid, what's happening? Prince, what's happening? Giovanni, a myth. It's not quite a myth, okay? Feminists like to put titles on shit that probably don't belong. It's like I said, it's more nuance. What's up, Woo Man? Adric, what's happening? Jay Cleveland, what's going on? B-Row, what's happening? Michael, what's going on? Snowman, what's up? Uh, is it gonna be a combo, or are you doing it by itself, Snowman? If you're doing it by itself, I might drop in. Damon, what's going on? Langon, what's going on? Any dark news? There's plenty of it. I just have to put it up. Just let me know what you guys are really interested in, because there's tons. There's so much dark news going on now, man. It's not even dark news anymore, okay? Because everybody's talking about the same thing at the same time. I was listening to. We're actually doing a show in real life amongst my pro-black peers, right? And they were raving about the end of white supremacy and what it's going to look like and what the outcomes are going to be and shit like that, blah blah blah. And I have been talking about this for 10 years, man, but nobody believes you until it's happening. So when they start talking about it, it means when the pedestrians catch up to it and start saying the shit that you've been saying, that means okay, it's already too late. SW, what's happening? Jason, what's going on? Paul, what's up? I was trying to remember the name of the ant. What is it? Bartolomeo or something like that. What's up, Eddie? SL, appreciate you. Bankanon, what's going on? Shalom. Supreme Pivot. Doc, what's happening? Doc, you never. I know you probably don't because you're in the business. You never said who your favorite axe player was. Okay, who's your favorite saxophonist? I don't think I've ever heard you say who your favorite was. I know who the people that you like, and to me you remind me of Ronnie Laws, uh, but you never said who your favorite was. Terrell, what's going on? Jason, what's happening? It got yeah. If they're that could sound like one of my aunts, right? That's why I play it, right? If they're water wet, it means it got gator in it. Okay. In fact, I was talking to yeah, one of my female friends, my female co-host, right? She's in real estate. She's from New Orleans, right? And she she's been in the valley so long. That's where she speaks. But sometimes I tease her. And so I would greeted her. She said hello. Said because she travels. I said, "Where you be? Where you be at now, girl?" She started laughing. Yeah, cause she be closer to a she not quite Passe Blanc, but she pretty close. Roddy, what's happening? Mark Bryant, what's going on? Red Planet, King Pix, Pragmatic Prime, what's going on? Yeah, I'm good, man. Otherwise, man, I'd be passed out. Uh, Killer Mike. Sometimes I gotta remember how old I am. I get a headache, and sometimes you could push through it, and then you realize, oh man, you better sit your old ass down. Killer Mike, what's happening? Babu, what's going on? Mr. Donnie Mac, what's happening? Saint Cyr, Palm Beach Mike, Trail, what's happening? Let's see, Black in the Middle. I have been married 19 years, and we have a 16-year-old daughter. Congrats, man, a 14-year-old, and a lot of people I know have been married and have kids together. Yeah, I think the marriage rate, well, two-parent household. I think the two-parent household in the black community, not everybody's married. I think it's like 54%. Okay, even though they're listed as a single-family household, but it's actually 54%. Um, it's just not on paper. Um, Blanco Di Negro, what's going on? Good afternoon, brother BGS and the brothers in the chat. Appreciate what's going on. Hey, Art, what's happening, man? Where you been? Mel L, what's happening? How the Soul, what's up, BGS? As a fellow SoCal man, please check out this crazy BW vid on black men bred out in Cali. The lady's name is Cerebral Talks TV. Okay. Is they bred out or dating out? Okay. Well, I'll look at it. Cerebral Talks. Okay. Dr. L's, what's going on? Dr. L's, man. Man, I'm gonna start calling Dr. L's the old lady whisperer. Okay. He was so nice and calm talking to him and stuff like that. Him and Jeff is the young lady whisperer. I think Dr. L's is the old lady whisperer. Bartamuccio, okay. Coltrane, okay, Coltrane, okay. All right. Ilias, what's going on? Dusty Jones, what's happening? Horowitz, what's happening? Willie R, what's happening? Richard Creed, Marcus Moore, Blanco Di Negro, what's going on? Grover Washington, one of my favorite. Yeah. Oh, when I was young, yeah, he was my favorite when I was young. The Black Toxic, what's going on? Halsey, what's going on? Sound swiftly like a CPAP machine in the audio. Slightly like a CPAP machine. Okay, Halsey. I hear you. Okay. But you got one in. Don't do it again. T. Riddler, what's going on? Had a Soul, what's going on? Dirty Foot Jose, a key is here. Okay. Chaos, what's going on? Kelvin, what's happening? Tao, what's going on? Dr. Ill. Oh, you know what I mean. Langon the realist, forever blessed. What's going on? And busy Mike, what's happening? All right, let's go ahead and get busy, and let's do this. Let's start with this one. This is not the one they sent me, but this, she wrote a book, so you had to go on the book tour. So we're gonna check out her like 3 minutes of explaining why she did what she did. Okay. And this is typical feminist shit. So bear with her. Okay. And notice she's mostly speaking to white folks. She's not really speaking to black people. She's mostly speaking. Well, she's out of Harvard, so I guess that does make sense, right? She's gonna mostly speak to white folks. Busy Mike, what's going on? All right. This is Christina Cross, I do believe. Okay. And she's talking about the single motherhood and the racial disparities.
This elicited a lot of questions for me. How could single motherhood be less negatively impactful for black children, and yet we devote so much
as compared to a two-parent household in the black community? Okay, not single motherhood less impactful than white single motherhood.
time, attention, and taxpayers' dollars trying to reduce it for this group? Does the extended family truly have a role to play in explaining the differential effects of single motherhood? And why had this finding about the disparate impacts of this family form received so little broad attention? Typically in the literature, it was discussed as an aside, as a footnote or a detour, if you will, on the path to much more important research.
Well, the thing is, and this is something that kind of irks me. Okay, white folks over the years have been anywhere from 80% to now things like 55% of the population. Okay, you're the 10 to 13%. Who do you think they're gonna focus on? You or them? Okay, there's five or six times more of them than there are than you. So naturally, you're not going to get the main focus. And black folks think that the white establishment is going to focus on them first. Okay, doesn't work that way.
Findings. But I thought that this puzzle deserved far more attention. So I decided to take a detour of my own. I shifted the focus of my dissertation research to try to understand why the effects of this family structure, single motherhood, differed across racial groups. And I decided to test whether, as suspected, the extended family had a role to play. So using nationally representative data, I tracked.
Which is something the Kerner Commission said back in. Kerner Commission said that back in 1968 about the extended family. Also, so did Frazier back in the 1930s. Okay. So it's not the first time it's been said. The thing is, it's not really done in white academia, especially even black academia. They don't really focus on it, right? Even though it's in the literature.
Thousands of black, white, and Hispanic children from birth through young adulthood. And I tested whether living with a single mother differentially impacted their likelihood of finishing high school on time. And like other studies, indeed, I did find that the negative consequences of living in this family structure varied across racial groups. As white children spend more time living in a single mother family, their probability of finishing high school without repeating a grade declines at a much faster rate than for black or Hispanic children.
And the thing is not that it doesn't decline. The thing is it's not the same as, the impact is not the same as white people, okay? Or the amount of impact is not the same as white people, which we already knew, okay?
And at least for black children, deeper embeddedness in extended family life helps to explain this. This family form helps to reduce the negative effects that are typically associated with living in a single mother family. Another important thing that I found is that while connection to the extended family matters, it isn't the most consequential factor for explaining this puzzle. That's actually socioeconomic factors. You see, due to structural racism, Black children have access to dramatically fewer resources like income.
She's not, in other words, basically, this is something, she's not saying anything any different than has already been said, okay? The chick that wrote Black Women, Black Love, okay? She talked about the how the extended family can help reduce the effects of single motherhood. She called that the African kinship network, right? Where we have a network of families, and that comes from the old South. That's been going on since really since slavery. Okay, about the extended family and why you do it and how it does help uh, lessen the impact of a single mother.
Wealth and safe neighborhoods compared to their white peers, even when they live in the same family structure. And it turns out that the additional stress that's incurred by living apart.
She might be, but the thing is, as far as I can tell, she two black parent household coming out of Milwaukee. Okay. High family history may not repeat itself, but it surely does rhyme. Yeah, it does rhyme. Yeah.
From a parent is only marginally impactful above and beyond these existing disadvantages. So this study offered some concrete answers for me for a puzzle that had actually been longstanding in the literature. We had known for over 30 years about the disparate impacts of single motherhood, even though it wasn't mentioned often. But it actually didn't fully explain the differential impact of single motherhood. But I've been so intrigued by this puzzle that years later, I'm still on the hunt for answers. And shameless plug, I'm actually writing a book about the flip side of the coin. That is when African American children live in the socially promoted two-parent family, do they reap the same rewards? Are the consequences for them the same as their white peers? And if not, why? And what should our social policy be doing about that? So if that interests you, stay tuned. My book should hit shelves in 2025.
Okay, this is the precursor to the one I'm getting ready to show you. Okay, this is her talking about her paper, and before the book comes out. Okay, and the next one is going to be the one everybody sent me, which is the book actually coming out. Okay, and she's talking about the book. And the book is mainly about racial inequality. It's really not about a two-parent household. But the thing is, black women uh, love to focus on the single motherhood problem, right? Is because they want to embrace it. Okay, they actually want to say that's how come they have the that's why they have the title as it's a myth. Okay, and it's not a myth. Okay, it's just it's uh, any kind of culture is going to impact differently. Okay. And this one is from Christina Amanpour, right, of CNN fame, okay? White people again, right, okay? And this one is the benefit of a two-parent family myth. Harvard sociologist explains, okay? I'm a poor and company, all right. And the thing is, what they want to do is what the white women want to do is apply this what goes on in the black family into the white family because they want to fight the so-called patriarchy, right? They want to figure out how can they actually embellish more single-parent households, even though their culture and our culture are not the same. These women can't be redeemed. They belong to the white man. Yeah, well, you know. One thing is, I don't know if she's, you know, a lot of stuff, you see this as far as black feminists have been taught about this stuff for a while, so it's not unusual, okay? But, and what she's saying is it's been in the literature, and sometimes people can take what she's saying and spin it. And I think she wanted it to be spin, okay? But the thing is, they come to the same conclusion in the very end, which is going to be shown.
Next, rethinking widely held beliefs about racial inequality. For decades, scholars have drawn a strong link between high rates of single-parent households and the disadvantages faced by Black Americans.
It's only one part of the puzzle, okay?
Well, our next guest is challenging that idea. It's all in her new book, Inherited Inequality. Harvard sociologist Christina Cross joins Michelle Martin to explain how viewing systemic disparity through a different lens could help these disadvantaged Black communities.
Thanks, Christiane. Professor Christina Cross, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
And the first people trying to get Black men to come back. Well, they don't really. The thing is, Black women don't really want the man in the house. What they really want is access to manhood, a la carte. Okay. They will actually include men in an extended family network to actually help raise the boys, without the cost or the burden of having a husband. Okay, the state gives them money, okay, financially, and then if they can get the other stuff done a la carte, like through mentorship, all that kind of crap, they will, which is what they're trying to do. Black women really don't want to be married. They really don't want a man in their household. They really don't. So that's how come the marriage rate is so low, and the divorce rate is so high. Okay. They really don't want to have a man, or especially a Black man, in their house.
You know, your book is kind of a myth buster, I guess, if I could call it that, because you really challenge some of the things that we have just sort of come to accept as part of kind of social policy or family policy.
Baby mama culture is the cause of all. No, it's not. I wish it was. Well, it's not.
You say that, you open the book by reflecting on your own childhood in Milwaukee, where the two-parent family was kind of held up as the antidote to all manner of ills, like, poverty and crime and stuff. And one of the reasons that struck me, just to begin with, is that I think that there's sort of an attitude that African Americans don't talk about issues like this among themselves. Mm-hmm. Like, this is sort of an outside-in conversation. And so the first thing that I noticed was you say that this was kind of a commonly...
I don't mind it being done. I don't mind it being done a la carte. I think in the Caribbean, since it's a smaller community and it's all Black community, I think extended family is way more important. Okay, in an all Black Caribbean community. Okay, because that is the norm. That's probably why.
Discussed theme in your childhood, at church and your family members. Can you just talk about that very briefly?
Yes. So I, like you mentioned, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I grew up in a working class community there. And many times I would hear folks at church, at school, within my neighborhood, sort of trying to grapple with many of the challenges that we were facing and trying to understand what really was driving some of the issues within my community. And often family structure, in particular, single parent families came up as part of the narrative. And a lot of times the story was that our community was better off when we had higher rates of two-parent households, and that unfortunately there had been a change with an increase in single-parent families, which was, among other things, a really important factor in.
Riddler, calm your ass down, man. Calm your ass down, okay? Listen and learn, and calm your ass down, okay? You're always coming in, man. Riddler, why you always come in on the freeway sideways, man? Instead of merging into the lane like everybody else.
And driving some of the challenges we are facing.
But here's where your book takes an interesting turn. You write that Americans have great faith in the power of the family, and in particular, the power of the two-parent family. We imagine this domestic idol to be a haven from the harsh realities of the outside world. And the way we rhapsodic, it's easy to assume that most Americans see the two-parent family as a great equalizer. And you say you were raised to believe in this, and growing up, the adults regularly invoked this family structure as a solution to a host of problems facing our...
And you went to Harvard, okay?
Low-income African-American community. So that's the first thing. You say that, look, there's a reason that so many of us continue to hold fast to the idea that, two-parent families are advantageous. It's true.
It's true. See,
I mean, it's just common sense. But one of the central findings here is that the negative effect of single motherhood on child outcomes is weaker for African-American children than for white children. And the well-being of Black youth from two-parent families is substantially lower than that of their white.
If you compare it to white people, yes, okay? When you compare, apples to apples, okay? Two-parent Black household to a single mother home, okay? The vast majority are going to be better off in a two-parent household, okay? See, they're trying to mix apples and oranges and nuts and berries together. Okay. Happy fall. These gynocratic black women gonna make me go black pill. Hey, well, you already know, man. That's how come you learning Chinese. The West is cooked. Okay. Why is she an apologist for the single family home? It's because black, especially black single mothers, get a negative rap, and a lot of them are trying to clean that up. And because you have a lot of women that want to be an MDK Williams. Yeah, well, I used to see it all the time. You can tell, man. You have the educated single mother that's right around 40, walking around with her toddler, okay, behind her, okay. You know she ain't married. You know she only gonna have one, and that's gonna be her kid. There's a lot of that stuff going around. There's a lot of people. Ebony K. Williams is probably the idol or the how can I say, the gold standard for a lot of these educated chicks.
Years. When is the first time that finding became clear to you?
Well, it was about a decade ago for me when I was working on my dissertation research. Like any good graduate student, I wanted to explore what we already knew about the topic of family structure before designing a project of my own. And one of the things that I found relatively hidden in the data was this striking finding. I had found that several researchers had uncovered that the negative impact of living with a single mother was smaller for African American children. And of course, I was really struck by that, given the conversations that I had been hearing since I was a child, but also what I knew more generally. 80% of white Americans and 70% of Hispanic Americans and 60% of African Americans all agree that African Americans have a harder time getting ahead because of differences in family upbringing, specifically.
That's true, but it has more to do with culture. It has, culture, education, a whole bunch of things that it has to do with. Normally, a lot of that stuff does center around the mother. You said, "Happy just remember, would you do a podcast on Michael who? Who is he? On men falling out of the system. Michael Smerconish. Had never heard of him. If it's relevant, I don't know if it's relevant or not.
Family structure. So this is a consensus or a widely held idea that was at odds with what I was finding in the data, which made me explore more. That finding was about single motherhood. And I began to wonder about the flip side of the coin. What is it like for African American children when they grow up in two-parent families? Do they reap the same rewards?
Do they reap the same reward? So do you want to can we take those sort of
same rewards as what? As white people? Okay. And that's what she's saying. As white families, okay? In other words, a two-parent black household is supposed to get the same reward as a two-parent white household. We all know that ain't gonna happen, okay? You didn't have to do a whole dissertation to find that out, okay? He's a commentator on CNN, okay? Oh. Okay. All right. Smoke Cunn's the bald head boomer white guy. Okay. Never heard of the guy. Anyway.
Separately, what's your theory? Why is it that growing up in a single parent household is more damaging to white kids than to black kids? Why do you think that is?
That actually became the focus of my dissertation research. And I began to test some theories that had already been put out in the world, but they were at that point speculation. There were two in particular that I decided to test. One of them focused on extended families. So we know that in general, African Americans tend to be more deeply embedded in their extended family networks. They're much more likely to live with extended kin or to live close to them, and they engage in significant amounts of support exchange.
They do that with two-parent households too. It's not either or. Okay. It's a village, okay? My kids were raised in a village, so can it help? Yeah, okay. If you get the proper village, yeah, it can help, okay. But it doesn't always work.
the theories suggested that African Americans more deeply embeddedness in this extended family actually served as a protective factor, sort of buffered against some of the negative consequences of single motherhood.
I think kind of anecdotally, a lot of us have seen that. Do you know what I mean? And it also explains the way that sort of legal structures kind of work against Black families. Like, for example, this whole business of people registering their kids in out-of-boundary schools, like schools where they don't live, but maybe their grandparents live. And then you look more closely at it and you think, oh, wait a minute, the grandparents function as another set of parents. Like the grandparents might have the kids Monday through Friday and the...
Yeah, well, basically that's to prevent really, they actually do that because the taxes are paid for the kid in the school where they go to. And basically, if you take the kids out of those schools and send them someplace else, okay, that school will get the money instead of the homeschool. That's why. But that's been going on. That's nothing unusual.
Parent has the kids on the weekends because that's a better school. And then people look at that and think, oh, you're doing something illegal. But for them, it makes sense. It's
not illegal. It's just it's really all that's about is money. Okay. Growing up, my parents were supportive, but it was my grandparents that had time to really pour into me for success. It takes a village. Yeah, it does. This is what she's saying is not. It's not unusual, right? And basically the network just doesn't apply to single mother households. Also applies to two-parent households. Okay.
Normal, right?
Yes, and actually that's one of the things that I have explored in other areas of my research, how some groups just do family differently. And it's much more common for African Americans to involve extended relatives in routine child rearing tasks, and even to share households some of the time or all of the time with these extended relatives. But if we focus so much on the nuclear family,
Doc, if you want to come up, you can come up and comment, but I'm pretty sure that you probably be doing your own video on this one. Because you probably have, since you're an academic, you probably have much more to say about this than I do.
We will miss that, and we can make it actually much harder to support these families.
And you're saying that the corollary to that is that white families, that's less common. It's less common, like the focus really is very much sort of the nuclear family, and that if a single parent doesn't have that, a single white parent doesn't have that, it becomes much harder.
It is much harder because that's not their family structure, okay? Which is something she should say, okay? Now that is not the normal white family structure. So if a white woman does not have the husband in a nuclear family, then it's not going to work because their family structures are built for nuclear. Ours is not. Ours is not. So it's easier for us to adapt to a non-nuclear family is because our structure is built on the clan instead of the single family household. Okay.
Well, they're much more likely to live further apart from other relatives. And actually, in my study, I found that many white single parents.
Ranger 1, I will listen to it if it's important enough to do a video on it. I will, but. As far as men falling off, we've been taught about that for the past 5 years. Okay.
Reported less satisfaction with the amount of support they were receiving from their extended relatives.
Interesting. Okay, so then let's take it the other way, which is to say that Black kids who live with two parents don't seem to reap the same benefit as white kids who live with two parents.
No.
Why is that?
Well, to understand this, I think it's important to understand why living in a two-parent family is generally beneficial for children in the first place. And it's because parents have more monitoring.
See, now she's going to talk about why it's more beneficial to be in a two-parent household. So two-parent household is true, okay? It's not a myth. It's true. Okay? So the thing is, when they title stuff to get is clickbait to get you to watch. Okay, it's not a myth. It's true. Even though they said it right up front, it's not a myth. It's because the effects have been measured over the period of 100 years. It is true. That's why they don't. That's why it takes much more money to actually support a single-family household. Right? Okay. I got to do that shit with my family. Right? Okay. It takes more family resources Okay, if the woman doesn't have a husband. Okay, when if the woman has a husband, to take offload, a lot of that stuff gets offloaded onto the man, to the husband, instead of to the rest of the family. Okay, money, time, all the other kind of stuff. Okay, it gets offloaded onto the father and mother. Okay, and when the woman's by herself, okay, then the family has to make up for that shit. Even back then, that's how come they wanted to make sure that their woman had a husband. Okay, and not a whole bunch of kids out of wedlock. Is because it puts a lot of pressure and burden on the family. So your family wealth, time, all that kind of stuff. It's pressure put on the extended family. Okay, when you could have done it the right way. So it's not a myth. How far back do you think she went historically? Does she take the Great Migration into account? I don't know. I haven't read the book, so I have no clue, Mr. Donnie Mac. I have no clue. Okay, because she's going by the questions that's asking her. I think basically she's going back to the '60s. I think um, that's where she's going back to, because basically up until the '60s, I think the two-parent household, for as a family type, was at least 65, 70%. Even the mid '60s, I think the two-parent household was still in the 60% range. Okay, even back then, instead of it going the other way, some 60 years later.
And time to spend supervising children, but they also have more money on average. So in general, children in two-parent families have access to more resources. Well, unfortunately, one of the things that I found in my data is that Black children who grew up in two-parent families have drastically fewer resources, in particular economic resources, than white children who grew up in this
No shit, Sherlock.
same type of family. Their household incomes are about 60% of that of white two-parent households, and their family wealth is just a quarter, 25%.
No shit, Sherlock.
Why does that matter? Why does that matter? That the gap in wealth and assets, the money that exists because of, your house or your investments and things like that. Why does that gap matter so much, in your opinion?
Well, wealth matters so much for being able to give people a sense of economic security at any point, but especially during moments of downturn, right? You mentioned the recession earlier. Having wealth can make all the difference in being able to keep your home or not. And it being able.
John, unless you have a wrench, bruh, don't come here. You know what? I'll let this go, but I really don't like people coming and advertising in my chat. Okay, I really don't. If I don't know you, I don't know the person, I don't know what that person stands for. Please don't advertise somebody in my chat without asking permission. Okay, that's just a warning. Because you start doing that shit, and when that person turns out to be something else, then they'll point back to my channel. Okay, do not do this shit without my permission. Okay, if you want to promote somebody, ask first. Okay, the only people who can actually promote stuff without permission are my mods. That's why I give them a wrench. Okay, they can do it without permission.
To afford to send your children to a quality school, and being able to provide children other advantages as they try to establish their own independent household. There are many
No, they know it. She knows it. The thing is, that's not the questions that are asked.
Parents who offer their children help with down payments to own homes, which of course allows for a greater and earlier accumulation of more wealth. So you can sort of see this compounding advantage from having access to more assets and having higher levels of wealth.
Are any of these findings surprising to you?
Well, yes, actually. It was already concerning to find that Black children from two-parent families had drastically lower academic and labor market opportunities than their white peers. But what I was really struck by, and what I did not expect to find, is that Black children in two-parent families had outcomes that were more similar to their white peers who lived in a single-parent.
No shit. What does that tell you? Okay. Now, that is the case. So what's the difference between a white single-family mother household and a Black single-mother family household? What's the difference in those outcomes? I know you're not going to compare them, but she's already telling you. Okay, that has to do with race and race inequality. Okay, more than it has to do with family structure. But to say that the Black two-parent household is not necessary or it's a myth is bogus, okay? Even she can't do it with a straight face.
Family than to their white peers who grew up with both parents.
Why is that?
Well, it goes back to these resource disparities that I mentioned before in large part. But actually, I found that for some outcomes, economic resources had less to do with what was going on, but things outside the home also come into play. So one thing that I found is that Black children and two-parent families were 2 to 4 times more likely to be suspended or expelled from school than their white peers. And they had very high suspension rates compared to any group. Well, economic resources only explain a small fraction of what was going on there. But what I also found is that when it comes to their behaviors, they were not different with respect to how they showed up in the classroom. But there's been a ton of research to show that Black children's behaviors are often perceived to be more negative and disruptive in the classroom. And so then we think about how perception really plays a role in driving these disparities in school discipline.
So you point out that Black two-parent families are almost invisible in academic literature.
In other words, even though a white single mother won't be as successful as a white two-parent household, she still has more resources that's available to her than Black families. Okay, but that's what we call a duh moment. They never phrase things that put Black boys as the victim. Of course not. The areas that had more taxes had much more. Okay, much more what? Resources? Yeah.
Even though they make up nearly half of Black families today. Why do you think that is?
That's correct. Well, for so long, the conversation about Black families has been about single parent families. There's been such a concern with trying to figure out why African Americans have a harder time getting ahead on life. And so then the conversation and the attention has been on these single mother families.
Which is facts. I mean, that's just facts, okay? Most single family households led by Black women are in poverty. I think it's 70% of the Black female single family households are in poverty. Of course, it's going to have an impact.
And so even though there has been a rise in Black two-parent families, that's not where we have been focused on for so long. Narratives are incredibly powerful in sort of directing our attention and shaping the way that we think about issues. And so because that's been just such a long-standing narrative, the narrative about Black single parenthood, I think it has made it difficult for us to really imagine and think about Black two-parent families.
So what do you think has been lost by not spending more time thinking about this Black two-parent family experience?
It leads us to some pretty false assumptions about what's really driving inequality and outcomes for Black children, but also what we can be doing to level the playing field. Because we haven't focused on Black two.
We have focused on two-parent households. We focus on outcomes. We focus on a lot of stuff, okay? Is that Black women as feminists have not focused on it, okay? The literature is in there. They don't read it.
Parent families, we haven't known how drastic the opportunity gaps are for this group compared to their white peers. It has allowed.
Yes, we do. What is it? I forget his name, but they just did a whole thing about Black boys and Black children, a whole study in 2018. Okay, very impactful study. They're still talking about it. Okay, it's bullshit. They have been talking about it. I've seen too many single mother Black women with good educations and salary not educate and pour into their own sons. Oh yeah, well because they don't see their sons as valuable. That's all.
Us to believe for so long that the two-parent family is this great equalizer, which has actually shown up in the way that we craft policy.
What are some of the things that would actually, based on your findings, actually make a difference for families?
Here we go. Okay. Got to get Uncle Sam to come back and be baby daddy. Come on, baby.
So it is true that when Black children grow up with both parents, they tend to experience advantages, and they do tend to have improved outcomes. It is also true, unfortunately, that they still lag behind their white peers in the same family structure. And my findings indicate that much of that has to do with these wide gaps in economic resources. And so if we really want to turn the tide, we need to be thinking about how to bolster family resources instead of making cuts.
It always comes back to money. Always comes back to money. Money is important, okay? Money is important. But there's other stuff that comes into. But black women always focus on what? Finances, getting more money to. At least you talk about getting money to families instead of single mothers.
To key social safety net programs like Medicaid and SNAP and Children's
See,
Health Insurance Program, we could be thinking about ways to help families to stay.
Medicaid and SNAP, right? In other words, money and programs for what? Single black mothers, okay? Because two-parent households don't get that kind of stuff. If she got a man, this goes all the way back to when these programs first started, right? Well, they weren't started for black women; they actually started for white women, right? If you got a man, then the man needs to pay. Okay, I'm your baby daddy when you don't have no man.
Afloat during these challenging times by increasing that amount of aid. Another thing that people are really surprised to find out is that TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, which we just commonly refer to as welfare,
yes,
its budget has not increased since it was created in 1996.
1996. Actually, TANF was created in 1972, okay? 1972, and it didn't take over until they basically killed most of the welfare in 96 under Clinton, okay? But TANF had been around a long time, even though she's mistaken with that. But the thing is, it hasn't been increased because it's not supposed to increase. It's supposed to be booting your ass off of it, okay? And that was Clinton, okay? Bush and Obama actually increased it, right? And guess what? Trump's getting ready to do. He's getting ready to kill it again. Okay, so he's doing the same thing Clinton did in '96. I haven't read it. It said her whole book is just another shame black men for not being white. I haven't read it. Have you read it, Casual? I haven't read it yet. They have no solutions for when the money dries up. No, they don't, because they're women. So nearly 30 years ago. And when we think about inflation since that time, we really start to see that this program is falling behind in the amount of support that it is providing to families, or what we thought. Monahan scissors are still cut deep is because Monahan just he took the information from black scholars, okay? Monahan didn't write it out of his own dome, okay? He took the information from his black scholars. Kenneth Clark was his best friend. That's where he got the stuff from. Monahan didn't write this out of his own experience. He got it from Clark. That's like when they can't talk about Clark. They talk about Monahan, but if they talk about Clark, it's a different story, right? Okay. They will always avoid what is most necessary. A thinking man, iron sharp as iron. They could solve this. They've shown that if they gave, which Monahan said back in '65, give black boys a separate education, you can solve most of these fucking problems. But they won't do it because they don't want to. Was adequate even 30 years ago. So even just thinking about trying to make sure that funding keeps up with inflation, there's also been why is she talking about welfare? Okay. Why is she talking about welfare? Mr. He appreciate you. I love how she says the budget hasn't increased as if they haven't been overspending. No, that's true. Why is she talking about a myth of two-parent household? I don't know of too many two-parent households, black households, that get welfare, okay? I don't. If two-parent households get the same kind of benefits and welfare that a single-parent household would get, they'd be on easy street. But guess what? They don't get that shit. Does Trump from today's UN care more about SNAP? Actually cares less about SNAP because he's getting ready to cut it. Mr. Heat says, come to the dark side, brother. It's peaceful over here. Only get it if the man can't work and how. Yeah, that's what the man of the house rule did not come from black people. Okay, that's how come welfare and AFDC is a Social Security Title IV Social Security bill. Okay, as it was never meant for aid. Okay, it's there to actually supplement Social Security. and the program blew up to the point where, okay, now they had to factor it in, right? It was never meant to go this far. It was meant for widows and orphans. It was not meant for single family, single mother created, never married women. Okay, it was meant for widows and orphans. Okay? That's what it's meant for.
Different strategies that we've seen that were effective recently that we could have continued. I think about the expansion of the child tax credit during the COVID-19 pandemic and how that lifted 10
more basically, and that's actually a Reagan era child tax credit. Actually, a Reagan era whatchamacallit, Reagan era bill. Okay, Reagan put that in.
Of millions of children out of poverty. And it really made a difference in increasing economic resources for families. Why can't we continue to do that? We see that it works.
Money.
So the bottom line is, you're just saying that living in a two-parent family has significant advantages for white kids. It has advantages for all kids. It particularly advantages white kids.
Yes.
It really.
In other words, they're saying it particularly has an advantage for white kids. Okay. That's the same way being white and a single mother is probably more beneficial to you than even being a two-parent black household, okay? Because she got more resources, more available resources to her. That's race. It has nothing to do with marriage status, okay? And the low person on the totem pole is a single black mother, okay, with kids.
Doesn't advantage black kids that much. So if people are
not that much or as much. It does advantage black kids, okay? But the thing is, when you compare it, when you compare it across race, will it has to have the same impact? No, because the black kids are not black. They're not white. They're black, okay? And that's race. So the two-parent household is not a myth, okay? It's real.
Are not willing to see that. What does that say? If they're not willing to sort of adjust for the difference, what does that say?
Well, if we continue to assume that the benefits of this family structure are universal, we're not going to be able to close these gaps that we say that we care so much about. It will lead to us perpetuating inequalities between children of different races as they have gone on for decades. One of the reasons why I call my book Inherited Inequality is because I want to highlight this unequal access to opportunity that has persisted in the U.S. across generations.
She ain't saying nothing new, okay? She ain't said nothing new. What upsets me most is that this is the best of black women. Yeah, she's not saying anything new, okay? But the thing is, at least feminists are starting to look at it. That's the only thing, okay? That's the only thing. Now, the thing is, when black women and feminists have been pushing this two-parent household advantage and myth on, or so-called myth on black men for decades, okay? When they fail, they blame it on black men. If the daddy had been in the home, okay? If the daddy had been in the home, if the daddy had been doing what he's supposed to do, if the daddy had not up and left us in bounds, okay, the black community would be better. And they're still telling us that, okay? It's not men that are saying it. They're arguing amongst each other at this point. And now you're trying to tell us that and we've been knowing the most important thing is race, okay? That's not new. What do you think the civil rights movement was about? That's not new. Duh.
Generations, and we don't want to continue to pass that on to the next generation.
Bullshit. You're still doing it. You ain't got to. I'm actually gonna read this book. I bet she ain't got no recommendations, okay? Except to get more money from Uncle Sam. In other words, she bet what they're still doing is begging their baby daddy actually to get more money. That's all. And actually going to exacerbate the same shit that's going on right now, okay? Because what she's suggesting is just gonna lead us back into the same shit that's happening right now with the same fucking outcomes, okay? In other words, nothing will change, okay? You're just gonna give these people more money because guess what? You didn't come from a fucking single mother household, okay? You didn't. Two-parent household, and guess where you wound up? Some bullshit, okay?
I'm imagining that some might look at your findings and say that this takes people off the hook, that people should exercise personal responsibility, and that sort of blaming outside forces for your kid's lack of success in school and things of that sort just is unhelpful and kind of perpetuates a sort of a lack of sense of personal responsibility. So what would you say to somebody who made that argument?
Well, the thing about my book is that I'm looking at people who've done it, quote unquote, the right way. They've done what society said we should do in order to guarantee our children's success. And yet they have not found their children in a position to actualize those same dreams of success. Unfortunately, their children don't have access to the same opportunities. So this.
Yes, they do have to basically. Yeah, maybe AI is going to change this shit. Okay, access to education and access to knowledge. Okay, because that's really all it is. Okay, access to knowledge. Okay, do you have you have a fucking venture capitalist coming and knocking on your door to actually help you start a business? No. But the thing is, a lot of the stuff that we didn't have access to, especially what we call knowledge, okay, is accessible. The same little device you give them to actually, so they can actually scroll and look at TikTok. They can actually look at educational videos and stuff like that. Okay, they can access books and all that kind of stuff. Okay, they can. They can, instead of learning about what's his Sexy Red, you can actually learn about Shakespeare. Okay, or the Bible, or philosophy, or Nietzsche, or something like that. Okay, you can, because it's there. It's just a matter of focus, okay? And what they don't want to do is put the blame on black women, because that's where the focus should be, because it's black women that are holding up progress in the black community, okay? It is. And Ms. Delta says, I was asking her questions on a budget committee that would. If I was asking her a question on a budget committee, I would ask her, what have black women done with the money Uncle Sam already gave black women? What is the return on investment? Exactly. Okay. Exactly. If she was busted, if she were a busted college dropout, I could accept this incompetence more. I think some of it is. I don't think she's incompetent. What I think is. She's been steered a certain way, and I can't really fully say what she's done because I have not read the book. And certain interviewers say, like what she's going through right now, they're leading a question because they want a certain answer, and she got to sell a book. So it is what it is. She's trying to sell a book. So I have to read the book and see what the book says. It's just harder, but we do have access to the problem. The problem is crab in a barrel in a bucket. Yeah, a problem we have in our community when it comes to sharing information. Basically, sharing information. There's plenty of people sharing information. The thing is, and I go through this in my own family. Okay, they don't. A lot of times they don't want this shit. Okay, they don't want this shit. Like my kids. Okay. My kids don't say shit to me is because they know that they fucked up their own life. I mean, it's not fucked up. They're good kids. They all got jobs. They all take care of themselves. I got two of them with degrees and shit like that. The thing is that they can't say that they didn't have an opportunity to actually be what they wanted to be. So how come they can't come to my daughter? She can't come to me and says it's my fault that she didn't go as further than she did. No. Same thing with my other daughter. They can't say shit. Okay, you decided this is where you wanted to be. Okay, it had nothing to do with lack of. She's a feminist. Okay, this is you hear this. You hear this kind of psychobabble. What she's trying to do is take. She at least one thing, she did not blame the men in this one, because they're not blaming the men anymore, because basically there's too much data out there to say, okay, it's a woman's problem. What they're trying to do is take the focus off of black women and single motherhood and put it on society, especially racial inequality and welfare, because all she talked about is welfare and money coming from the government for the most part, subsidizing single motherhood. So her solution is more money from Uncle. Yeah, all her solutions had to do with what Uncle Sam. Okay, welfare, basically welfare, uh, tax credits, SNAP, that kind of stuff, right? That's all. That's all benefits coming from the government, which I don't have a problem with. Okay, if you gave a two-parent household the same money that you give a single mother with kids, the same money, guess what would happen? Okay, guess what would happen if that would happen? Then that mother that the husband could go out and work, and that woman could stay home, and he can basically help her educate and raise those kids. Okay, without all this stress. That's what it is. Basically, the subsidization of this with the welfare stuff like that, and so that these women will have babies. Okay, because women ain't gonna have babies without money, not for very long. If you want them to keep creating babies, they gotta pay for them. Which I don't have a problem with, but the thing is, stop fucking with us about this shit. Okay, because every 5 seconds, okay, it's the black man's fault that there's no two-parent households. Okay, at least now we see a turn where they're not blaming us anymore. The only shake is they know about shaking their ass, shaking Negroes' pockets down, and strawberry shakes at the Jack in the Box window. Yeah, Wendy's. Yeah. Anyway, you got a couple more minutes finish playing this and get out of here.
This goes beyond the individual. These are parents who have managed to stay together for decades. I follow children from birth through young adulthood, and they provided a stable home for their children. And after doing what they were told was supposed to guarantee them a bright future for their children, they still have to endure additional barriers. This is not simply about individual responsibility. Individuals, of course, have choice and agency, but they're also facing significant constraints.
Professor Christina Cross, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you for having me.
She never said one thing they never said. Okay, is that a black single mother household was equal to or better than a black two-parent household. They never said that. Okay, they avoided that. All they said, what they do when they jumped to, they compared the black two-parent household to a white single mother household. Okay, they never compared the two directly on purpose, because even then they said it's not a myth because the differences are true. Okay, watching 412, watching on 23 likes. Yeah, you guys, before you guys bounce, get the likes up, because you guys, I'm doing this not because it particularly interests me, because a lot of stuff they've already said, we've already gone over. The thing is, you guys wanted it, you give the people what they want. Okay, because I could have done it on the erosion of the simple economy in China. It's probably more interesting to me. Okay. Oh, Mrs. Mark. Yeah, but yeah, you don't mess with CNN and Amanpour without being intelligent. Okay. And Christina Amanpour, I forget where she's from, but she's been CNN International for God since since I was since the 90s. Okay. Money used for fancy car, restaurants, clothes isn't going to help. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could help. Okay, and you have women at the bottom and at the top stopping stopping this kind of stuff. There's no reason that you spend all that money going to college and you come out with a sociology degree or psychology degree, which I don't have any problem with it. But the thing is, it's not going to help you make a whole bunch of money. Okay, because they're too lazy to study STEM. They don't want to work that hard. This was on PBS. This was legit. Okay. All right. Anyhow, y'all, let me get out of here, and I will see you guys later. Okay. I've done my duty for God and country. Okay. And sounds like they do not want to face the fact that if black families stay intact, the black community would be better. Everybody knows that, but the thing is, the if is the problem, okay? And it's not just here, okay? The environment in the industrialism and the second wave, fourth industrial revolution is going to cause an even bigger fracture than it already has. Okay, because the family structures that we have for 100,000 years do not fit the current environment. It's not just here. If it was just here, I could understand, right? But the thing is, and, we don't have the same culture as Colombia. We don't have the same culture as South Africa or Kenya. We have the same culture, okay? It's the environment. You can see the stuff spread as the economic environment shifts. And the thing is, what can you do about it? And it's not just here. You got you have white people in Iceland, okay, middle of fucking nowhere, with a 70% out of wedlock birth rate, with 70% single mother rates, okay. What do you do about it? Yeah, well, of course you could. We've been cooked, man. We've been cooked. Okay. The thing is, they're turning us into leftovers right now. We've been cooked. The things we've been saying this shit for years. Okay. $20 donation for the Chinese simple economy class tomorrow. Hey, wait a minute. I got something for you. Okay. I got something for you. Okay.
I knew you'd come back.
I trust you didn't lose sleep over it.
Worrying about you be like wondering if the sun gonna come up. Ain't about to wild out over it.
And that one's for you. I knew you'd come back with that shit. Anyhow. All right, good people. We'll do the simple economy tomorrow. I actually was going to do it yesterday, but I had a headache. But I will do it tomorrow. The thing is these are trade-offs, and you're going to have to figure out how to form your families differently. And even back then, okay, when the Industrial Revolution, the first one came about in the late 18th century, early 19th century, right? You had a lot of kids die. You had a lot of orphans. You had a lot of single mothers. You had a whole bunch of shit that happened, right? It's during the transition. The thing is, people have to figure it out. The good thing is you're having less kids, okay? Even though you have more, the percentage is up, but the thing is the number of people is down. Which is why you have to import people to bolster your workforce, which is another story altogether, okay? And they've been trying to encourage all kind of people to get married, two-parent households, pay women to have kids, all kind of shit, man. Shit doesn't work because the environment is working against it. A TI 83, man, that brings back memory. Man, I couldn't afford one back then. Anyhow, let me get out of here. My Rumble channel, okay, that's Ray's Rumble channel. I'm gonna start putting something up on Rumble, man. I've been having a Rumble channel for 2 years, man. I got maybe 2 videos on it. Yeah, well, basically, these are my golden years, and this is, I can do it because this is my mission before I pass on, is to try to pass on as much knowledge to you guys as I can. And this is a life. I looked at my chart. This is my life mission. Okay. Every time I try not to do this, I get pushed back onto the path. So, this is the thing about my golden years. Because this is not about the money, man. I could make more money. I could make more money kissing black women's asses. Okay. This is an actual mission. So, even when I wasn't making any money, I was still doing the same shit. And straight calculus, engineering, and physics. You could thing is to actually teach these kids this shit early. Okay. If a kid can come in with at least 2 years of physics before he even gets to college, okay, he's well ahead of the game. Okay. Physics and calculus, he's well ahead of the game. If you get your math, if you get your physics and your calculus down, before entering college is pretty easy. It's pretty easy because those are the toughest courses, right? Well, chemistry takes more time, okay? But if you got your math and your physics down, chemistry is not that hard. The biggest thing is to get the math in them before they get to college. They get to college, if they could take any, if you can do if you can do physics and math and stuff like that, all the other courses are fairly simple. If you can do those two things. The thing is, most parents don't prepare their kids because that's just a lot of work, man. To get that kid ready to do calculus and physics and stuff like that, it's a lot of work, okay? But if you do that, by the time they get to college, man, college is a breeze, okay? If they can read, write an essay, and do calculus and do physics, college is a breeze. The rest of that shit's easy. Inspire to video for the interested, okay. Mechanical engineering here, AP Calc and physics class in high school were essential. Yeah, Mr. Donnie Mack did not have an AP Physics and AP Calculus in high school make college a whole lot easier. If I had known that, man, if I had known that before I got to college, you know, my parents were sharecroppers. They didn't know shit, so. If I had known that, man, it's like 7th or 8th grade, man, I'd have been studying that shit left and right, man. I'd have, all the other bullshit I'd have left aside. I'm only gonna, I try to tell my grandson, if you just do these things, okay, the rest is easy, okay? Okay? Could be, he found out, I think, because we were doing Shakespeare and he had to write essays, right, okay? And I made him sit down for about a good 3 months, write paragraphs over what he heard out of a book, okay? Once he got back, after that shit, his next year, the shit's easy, okay? Now he's getting 93s on assessment test, okay? And he said, damn, if you know the basics, it's easy. I said, it's not that hard, Chief. It's not that hard. If you know how to... Most people, and I just read this, most people don't even read at a 6th grade level. 54% of your Americans cannot read at a 6th grade level. Okay? Basically, it ain't too hard to outrun the slowest camper. Okay? Let them be the bear meat. My thing is not making kids do anything for, do anything they don't want to do. If you learn your math, your physics, your calculus in high school, and you want to be a garbage man, I ain't got nothing for you. That's what you want to be. The thing is, what you could be is something else. Okay. You can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, engineer, a scientist, whatever you want to be. Okay, if you get that shit down. Now, if you want to be a plumber, okay, and that's what you want to be instead of the other stuff, God bless you. The thing is, you could have been what you wanted to be. Okay, you had the opportunity. That's all you can do is give your kids an opportunity. Like my son, okay, he had an opportunity to go into the NBA if he had took the right path. He don't want to work that hard. Fine, but he don't say shit. That's one thing I can say about my kids. They don't say shit. Okay, he don't say shit about being in the NBA because he know he could have done it. So you don't complain. Okay, same thing with my daughter. You could have been a doctor. You didn't want that. Okay, fine. Same thing with my other daughter, right? You could have went to an Ivy League school. Okay, that's not what you wanted. I ain't got nothing to say. Don't look at me. Yeah. It makes a huge difference. The earlier you get the differential equations, the better. Yeah. Yep. But that linear algebra is a son of a bitch, man. Linear ain't no joke. Okay, even though most of your, if you want to be a good person in you want to be a good person as far as programming and stuff like that, and database programming, all that kind of stuff, linear algebra. Okay, you learn that shit. Okay, basically all your programming, your ones and zeros is based on linear algebra for the most part. If you learn that, programming is easy. Yeah, 54%. In fact, I wish I could show it to you. Okay, somebody sent it to me. I think James might have emailed it to me. Okay, I just saw it. Otis, appreciate you for the Cash App. Okay. Swift, appreciate you for the Cash App. And let's see if I can find it real quick. Let's put grade as a search term. There it is. Okay. It was Adrian that sent it to me. It was Adrian that sent it to me. Okay. Let's go ahead and show it. Now Adrian's listening. He could have told me he sent that shit to me. Said and have me look for it. Thea is over on Game Changer stream. Put the link in, Ray. Don't just say he's over there. Put the link in for it. Okay. Reading the numbers. 130 million Americans adults only have low literacy levels, with funding differs drastically by state. Okay. 130 millions of adults in the U.S. Half of all Americans between ages of 16 and 64 have low literacy skills, according to Gallup analysis data coming from the U.S. Department of Education. Right? Okay. They said it's sixth grade. I can't find it. Okay. I might do a standalone on this one. This one's interesting. Might do a standalone. That's fascinating about literacy skills. But that's where it comes from. All right, good people. This Game Changers. You got Mookie. Mookie's over there, plying the trade. So I think Game Changer is a programmer too, so that helps. It used to be eighth grade, yeah. I think 80 or 90% of people, of Americans, read at eighth grade level. That's why the newspapers are actually at that level. I did a literacy test because I was trying to compare what I know from Swahili to English, right? And basically, when I took the test in English, it said it couldn't be measured. Okay, it said it couldn't be. They said postgraduate. So, as far as my literacy, so I am an outlier. You can't measure it by me. Calculus creates physics, physics creates chemistry, chemistry creates material sciences, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. If you can do, because physics, math is basically physics in a different form, right? When it's actually brought down to the real world, right? Chemistry is third, right? That's where the materials come in. If you know all three, basically you're a winner. The thing is, if you can get your kid to learn, one, write an essay. You gotta learn how to read and write, okay? But he should be able to write an essay by the time. Kids should be able to write a 2-paragraph essay, which is the standard, by the time he's in 5th grade. It shouldn't be that hard, okay? Work, but it shouldn't be that hard, okay? Kids should know algebra by the time he's in 7th grade, all right? Okay, algebra, geometry, and then you start your calculus. Okay, so you start your calculus in high school, right? 1, 2, 3. Along with your physics, 1, 2, 3, because they're side by side. Okay. By the time that kid gets out of high school, okay, college is simple: reading, writing, and then your arithmetic and your analytical skills. Boom, you're done. Everything else is easy. Reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? In fact, your first 2 years are a breeze because all you got to do is read and write, okay? And a little literacy skills where you speed reading and taking notes. Boom. It's not that, especially nowadays, man, with these with these low literacy skills and stuff like that, man. Basically, if you know all three, by the time you get to college, basically you're Superman by the time you get to college. Anyhow, let me get out of here, y'all, and I got to go. I haven't been to Kenya yet. I was in Ghana twice. Okay, I was in West Africa twice, and I've been to Latin America maybe 4 or 5 times, but I have not been to Kenya yet. I should have gone to Kenya with my group back in, 10 years ago, or 12 years ago. But I spent that money sending my mother to Israel because she always wanted to do her pilgrimage. So I spent that money to send her on her pilgrimage. I think like $6,000 I spent for her to actually go to the Egypt and Israel, because she actually wanted to go to the whole Holy Land. She went to Turkey and Greece, and then she went to Israel, and then she went to Egypt. So she did her whole pilgrimage. So that's where I spent the money. Otherwise, I probably would have went to Kenya with the rest of the folks. Anyhow, let me get out of here, y'all. I will see you guys tomorrow, okay?
What can I say? Mamba out.